Welcome to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. This podcast is dedicated to EAS employees of the U.S. Postal Service and members of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. So, pour yourself a cup of coffee and join us for today's episode. And now, here's your host, Robert Wakefield.
Good morning, NAPS Branch 32, and good morning, NAPS family. Thank you so much for listening to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. I am your host, Robert Wakefield. That's right. I am your host, and there's nothing you can do about it. Except turn this off. Maybe that's what you should do. I don't know. Got a great show lined up for you, so you'll want to hang around and go ahead and pour that first cup. Want your savings to do more than just sit there? With a money market certificate from the Nashville Post Office Credit Union, you'll earn competitive returns while keeping your money safe and sound. You'll enjoy higher dividends than traditional savings, flexible terms to match your goals, and it's federally insured to give you peace of mind. It's smart, secure, and built for postal professionals who plan ahead. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union. People helping people since 1925. And for our first cup today, we have brought back our dear friend. This is Brian Wagner, and he is here again to talk about the advisement rights. And today, Brian, we're going to be talking about Garrity Rights. But first of all, welcome to the show.
Well, again, Robert, I really missed you, and I'm glad you brought me back. I had a lot of fun on the last one on advisement rights for the Calkine, and now we're into the Garrity. So we're doing this three-parter. I'm very excited. I'm getting a lot of coffee and ice cream flavor taste testing before I come on. That's great.
You've done well then, if you've done all that. So last week we talked about the Calkine's rights, and today we want to talk about the Garrity rights. So to begin this, let's talk about what the Garrity rights are.
Okay. The Garrity rights are when you're called into an OIG investigation, the OIG could give you what they call the Garrity rights. They're part of the subject of an OIG investigation, but you are not under arrest or in custody with the inspection service.
Okay.
The Garrity warnings, are designed to ensure the employee's interviews are voluntary. That's very key, voluntary. And a Garrity warnings, advise the subject that they may remain silent on matters where they may be criminal exposure, right? Or there may be criminal exposures, but they must report on activities that are not subject to criminal exposures. So it's kind of like, you got to watch what you say.
Right.
And the other thing is subjects or people in these investigations for Garrity are also reminded that the interview is strictly voluntary. Wow, voluntary.
Yeah, that's an interesting statement that they're all voluntary. Talk about that.
Well, one of the things we talked about is you have to cooperate in an investigation, right? Mm-hmm. Part of the 665 and the ELM.
Right.
But one of the things is when you go into an OIG investigation with your NAPS rep, and you're going to ask, can I leave and am I under arrest? Well, what they will do is provide you what they call your Garrity warnings. And it will say, I, Brian Wagner, have been advised by the special agent, Robert Wakefield, who's identified himself as a special agent. You're a special agent, Robert.
Oh, thank you.
About my Garrity rights. And in connection with this, I have been advised, and they'll give you a document that says, I have a right to remain silent if my answers may result in a criminal charge being brought against me. So you don't have to answer a question that, I better not say that because I did something bad.
Right.
And anything you say or do may be used as evidence in administrative proceedings, civil proceedings, or any future criminal proceedings involving you. Involving that member.
So just because you're in this interview and they give you these Garrity rights and they say it's voluntary, you do have the right to not incriminate yourself. Do I have that right?
You have that right. That's
Okay.
correct. And the reason is they haven't given you your Miranda, which is to remain silent. And that will be in our next part of the podcast here. But here's the other thing. If you refuse to answer the questions posed on the grounds that the answers may intend to incriminate you, you can't be discharged solely for remaining silent. So they can't say, well, Brian, you need to answer this question, even if it's criminal. Otherwise, we're going to fire you. Well, now you're going to fire me if I don't answer the question, and I get fired if I do answer the question because I'm going to incriminate myself.
Right.
That's
Okay.
what the Garrity was. And that's how that came about under the law, where it was the Garrity case, where they said, well, you have to answer this and you're going to incriminate yourself. And by doing that, we're also going to fire you and you're going to be subject to, criminal charges.
Okay.
But in the Garrity Rights, you have a list. Number four of the Garrity Rights is this interview is strictly voluntary and I may leave at any time.
Oh, it says that? I didn't know it said that.
It's-
Wow.
It says that. And this came from what NAP's headquarters read, Ted Keating back in 2006. I mentioned that earlier. Mm-hmm. He got a letter from the OIG's office explaining the advisement rights and what they all meant. And that was one of the things that was brought up. Now, again, if your member is given their Garrity warnings, the member needs to read them and acknowledge they've received them. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that member should ask is, am I free to leave? Can I leave? And if it's a Garrity case, you can leave.
Okay. If it's a Garrity case, you can leave. That's interesting.
Yeah,
because it flies in the face of that I'm going to, participate in and cooperate in investigations. Right.
And in the Garrity, you can't be held accountable for incriminating yourself.
I got you.
So, and it's a good idea that NAPS members who want to, a lot of members want to give their side of the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually in these types of things, you don't want to give your side of the story because I kind of go in my training on this when I do my Zoom into training. A Harvard law professor had said a person should never, never, never talk to the police, OIG, because they're cops and federal law enforcement agencies with guns. So you got to remember, if a member stays after the first OIG question, right? Let's say I stay for the first OIG, but I don't like the question. After that, I say, wow, I shouldn't be staying. Per that number 4, that it's voluntary. It says the interview is strictly voluntary and I may leave at any time. That member should leave.
Yeah, there you go.
And because most likely this is going to be a criminal case.
Okay. So
not a CalKine case.
Right. Not a
administrative.
Right. It's not administrative, but this could lead to action that could be criminal, or can it lead to action from an administrative standpoint or no?
Yes, it can.
It can?
Good
Okay.
point, Robert. Yes. I was just in California, in Sacramento, giving training this past weekend, and it was brought up. I gave this training here on your OIG investigations. Mm-hmm. And one of the branch presidents said he had 3 OIG investigations, and 2 were Garrity. The person was being investigated for theft, but they didn't have anything on this person yet. So they were asking questions, but it was Garrity, but it was going to lead to criminal. So consider Garrity possible criminal charges. Okay. You're not in the custody, you're not arrested, but you want to make sure that you don't incriminate yourself.
Exactly. So,
and I'm going to tell you, in cases like this, if it's Garrity, you would leave and then you would go get an attorney.
Okay. That was my next question. So do they need to get an attorney if it's Garrity? Is that usually a great idea?
That would be an excellent. I'm not a lawyer. I haven't played one on TV, but I have stayed at a Holiday Inn.
Well, there you go.
But I will tell you, when you're talking with a NAPS rep, there is no NAPS client member confidentiality. Mm-hmm. A NAPS rep can be called in as a witness for the OIG.
Right.
And when you're in a Garrity OIG investigation, that could lead to criminal. It can also lead to administrative, because if they find you've done something criminal, then they're going to fire you for being a criminal.
Right.
So you want to make sure you seek legal counsel.
So
that's the best way.
That's a great idea. Let me ask you this question. So I've been advised of my Garrity Rights. I say, okay, this interview is over. I get up and leave. What are the consequences of me leaving?
Well, because they gave you your rights, it's voluntary because it's voluntary.
Oh, okay.
The consequences are they're still going to probably do an investigation, but because it's a voluntary OIG investigation because they gave you your rights, they can't say, well, you didn't cooperate. Well, yeah, you did because it's voluntary.
Okay.
I did cooperate. So, and I want to make sure that my rights are protected. So you want to make sure that we don't give legal advice as NAPS reps per se. The best legal advice is get an attorney. Right. That's not really, that's just common sense, because you don't want to give as a NAPS rep, oh, you shouldn't say this or you shouldn't do that. Here's how I would say this, whatever. Just don't, by giving them instructions that could lead to criminal, they could come after you for, giving them bad advice. So that's why seek legal counsel when it comes to Garrity.
So that's a great point, Brian, that I wanted to bring up. So if I'm a representative and they present Garrity Rights to the person I'm representing, should I stop the interview there and have them get their legal counsel? Is that the advice?
What would be, you would say you're going to leave, you would recommend to the member that they contact a legal counsel, because anything the member says in those Garrity investigations and they incriminate themselves, you as the NAPS rep are a witness for the OIG that you were there when it happened. And if you start discussing the case with this person that they may have done something criminally, right? Criminal or civil, and they could subpoena you as a witness. What was said? Who was said?
Yeah, because we don't have the what is it called? The client privilege? Is that what it's called?
Correct. Yeah. That is client privilege. Legal. Yeah, lawyer-client privilege.
That's it. Okay.
So, and again, the issue is when you're into these investigations, focus on your questions. If you can answer them and they're within the realm of just your job, that's fine. But if most likely Garrity is going to could lead to criminal charges. Okay. That would be to me the light bulb going off and going, you know what? I think I'd best seek an attorney first. It may not lead to criminal, but if it does, I'll be protected. And it can always lead to, or could always lead to, administrative discipline charges, up to removal. Yeah. And again, OIG doesn't remove you. The post office does, per the OIG's recommendation. Okay, so that's a great point right there. So let me ask you one more question, and the question is this: how many Garrity Rights have you been a part of that you've had to represent someone? None.
Me neither.
The ones, usually. When we get into Miranda, we'll talk a little bit, but I have not had the Garrity. So mostly mine has been the Cal kind. Okay. Members been called in, and they're to the OIG, and they waived, their use immunity. They waived any type of charges for criminal. Okay. So. Well, that doesn't mean they're not out there. That's why we have the Garrity, and it has happened.
Exactly right. All right, so that's the Garrity Rights, and you have the right at this time, Brian, to give us the ice cream flavor of the week. So go ahead.
Well, this is voluntary, so I'm going to stay cinnamon snickerdoodle.
Cinnamon snickerdoodle. Oh, that sounds fantastic.
I'm a big cinnamon fan too. So I mean, I'm a fan of all ice cream, but except maybe guacamole. I've had guacamole. That one I can't recommend.
No, I don't think I want guacamole.
I like it with my dip, and yes.
No, that's exactly right. Brian, thank you so much for being on the show today. We really do appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate being on, and I always appreciate being on the #1 podcast in the country, in our hearts.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you, Robert.
Banking should be made simple. That's why Ollie, the Nashville Post Office Credit Union's virtual assistant, is here, ready to help 24/7. Need quick answers? Ollie delivers secure, instant solutions right at your fingertips. No wait times, no hassle, just smart banking made easy. Whether you're managing your finances, exploring loan options, or just need guidance, Ollie is always ready to assist, wherever and whenever you need. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union, people helping people since 1925. And for our second cup today, I thought I would look back at postal history. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, postal history of things that happened in the month of January. This is the last day of January. So let's look at this day in postal history. Well, this month. Let's just do it that way. You know, it's interesting. January 1st in 1856, mailers were first required to prepay postage using U.S. postage stamps. Isn't that interesting? 1856. And January 1st of 1911, the postal savings system began. That's another interesting. And then 2 years later, exactly to the day, parcel post began on January 1st, 1913. Let's see what else happened in the month of January. I did not know this. January 7th, 1968, priority mail service began. I did not know it was that old. I do not remember that. And here's the one that I want to focus on. This is the last one I'm going to share with you. January 8th, 1963. You know what happened? I didn't either. It was the last dog sled mail route in Alaska ended on that day. It was connecting to two cities, Gamble and Savunga. I guess that's how you say that. And it had been replaced by airplane service the month before. So it was the last dog sled mail route ended January 8th, 1963. Okay. I don't know why I did that, but it sounded like the thing to do. Thank you so much for listening to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. Please share this with all your friends and make sure that they are subscribers and listeners, and I really would appreciate it. And remember, every great weekend starts with a great cup of Joe. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. Please note that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of Robert Wakefield and do not necessarily reflect the views of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. We welcome your questions and comments, so send those to SaturdayCupofJoe@gmail.com.